Now I want to point out one additional thing. You really can't accomplish this all by yourself. You can have a false idea. You can have a strange idea. But it doesn't become anything more than that until you join with another who agrees with your fantastic idea. It's in the joining with another, with commitment to a fantasy, that fantasy begins to, or that fantasy achieves a so-called state of reality. Let us continue.
These related distortions present a picture of what actually occurred in the separation, or the detour into fear. None of this existed before the separation, nor does it actually exist now.
I'm going to interrupt you. The separation was something that two engaged in by mutual agreement to a fantasy. And the fantasy became a mutually agreed upon definition. Continue.
Everything God created is like Him. Extension is undertaken
as
undertaken by God, is similar to the inner radiance that the children of the Father inherit from Him.
As I said some time ago, if you are experiencing joy, even without expressing a word, others can't help but notice it. It radiates. Continue.
Its real source is internal. This is as true of the Son as of the Father. In this sense, the creation includes both the creation of the Son by God and the Son's creations when His mind is healed.
And when the Son's mind is healed, the creations that He extends are the presence of God that He's not blocking from finding its way through Him. Again, the Son never becomes an actually independent extender of anything. And that's why I have used the illustration of everyone being a puppet, either of the voice for truth or the voice for fear. The puppet of God or the puppet of the ego. In an undefended moment in which revelation occurs and you experience bliss, everyone else can tell. Because you extended it spontaneously, you might say automatically. You didn't say, oh, wow, I'm going to extend a little bit of bliss here. I'm going to send a lot of it there, and I'm going to send more of it there. There's no thought to it. There's no conscious direction of the extension. When you're feeling joy, you're feeling joy. When you're feeling bliss, you're feeling bliss, and that exudes from you spontaneously. And that's your extension. But not an extension of anything you privately, personally originated. Continue.
This requires God's endowment of the Son with free will, because all loving creation is freely given in one continuous line, in which all aspects are of the same order.
And what is that order? It's the order of God, you might say. It's the order of the originator of the extension, which is God. And as it illuminates and exudes from every aspect of what God is, every aspect is apparently extending, making the same gift. And the gift is love. And so this extension of love that you could say goes on and on and on infinitely expresses the order, the character, the nature, you might say, the scent or aroma of the love that God is. And this nature and order and aroma that finds extension without being altered in any way, because no part of the sonship is trying to introduce any private little bias to it, keeps the original intent unaltered. And so every aspect of the creation of God becomes a participant in expressing God. And the fact is that that's what all of you are at this very instant, even though you're momentarily preoccupied with personal needs and personal crises and personal concerns, etc. Well, the ego says, some free will that is. God has endowed you with free will to do nothing but reflect Him? Don't be fooled, that's not free will. But He did give you free will. You really do have the capacity to think and be independently from what God is. But the fact is that you didn't originate yourself, and because of that, You never have authority over what you're going to be in reality. And so the only choice you have is to either be the reflection of God or to imagine, to indulge in a fantasy that you have some capacity to be independent. And all that amounts to is that you force yourself to become unconscious of your function. So at the bottom line, you only have two choices. You have the choice to be conscious of reality or temporarily unconscious of it. That's the ultimate of your exercise of free will. To embrace or resist the movement of God. To allow it to consume you and be you so that you might involuntarily illuminate everyone and everything in your presence with the experience of bliss, or block it and share with everyone your resistance to it.
I'd like to ask for a little clarification. I think it's pretty easy for all of us to understand that we did not create ourselves. It's afterwards that things get a little bit foggy, because we each have our lives and the circumstances in our lives and the decisions we've made along the path that have led us to the point where we are, where we think we are.
All of which is fantasy.
And from the perspective of the fantasy, it appears as if we did create the situation, that we did create the place we find ourselves in this point in our existence. A doctor isn't in medical practice because he didn't choose to go to school. He did choose to go to school and become a doctor, and looks at himself as the author of his decision to be where he finds himself in this life.
Exactly. But once again, he couldn't succeed in that if there were not others willing to join him in that mutually agreed upon definition of status and office. The fact is that there are many people who do not extend respect to physicians at all because they do not see the medical practice as holistic, as natural. And so they don't join in the mutually agreed upon definition, and therefore the physician does not have the position he thinks he's gained with that part of society. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, but it works for all of us, whether it's something that appears lofty in our society, such as a physician, or whether just a housewife who has the nice home she wants and all the accoutrements so it looks good for a party, or
this is true.
The guy who's a clown bending balloons.
She must have friends in society that have joined in mutual agreement as to those status symbols. It still doesn't make it real. It still just makes it let's say a group insanity.
So then we are creators of our own insane fantasy. So we're successful in that aspect then.
You are successful to the degree that you and someone else, or you and many someone else's, have made commitment to the validation of those definitions. But that can't be counted as any kind of real success, because the conclusion isn't valid. It's just a mutually agreed upon consensus opinion.
So even in the positions we find ourselves, we did not create for ourselves the circumstances to put us in these positions? Or these positions just simply don't exist, so it's fantasy on top of fantasy?
You created them. But if you haven't created something that is real, you haven't created anything. If you haven't created anything, you haven't created anything. And therefore you haven't been a creator. But that's the difficult part for the ego. That's the difficult part in the process of awakening, because it requires a recognition that what you thought you had created, you didn't succeed in creating, and then abandoning that sense of authorship, and then asking, in so many words, what the hell is really going on? And becoming inquisitive. So, don't get hung up on, well, we must have really created an illusion. We were creative in some way. Because if nothing actually was created, then the sense of being a creator is false. And sanity is part of the realization that one's status as a housewife in a beautiful home, or a physician doing miraculous things, can only seem to be a valid perception if there are enough people believing it, and that doesn't make it real.
We've also read here that when we're healed, it says the Son's creations. Let me back up. This is as true of the Son as of the Father. In this sense, the creation includes both the creations of the Son by God, the creation of the Son by God, and the Son's creations when his mind is healed. So
Yes.
when our minds are healed, we then can create. Is this what I'm?
No, that I did address that. When your minds are healed, then your experience of God's extension as you illuminates you, fills you up. And it shows all over you.
So this is
Not by conscious choice, not by an individual authorization coming from you, but because it overflowed you. You see.
I see. So this would be like a spontaneous feeling of love or happiness or joy or bliss or revelation or something of this nature. It's not like
Or being
inventing
in
a chair
or being in a part of infinity where God was moving, you might say, and God moving looked like you moving a mountain or picking up a chair and relocating it, and being an integral, inseparable part of the glory of the movement of God.
And what about something like invention, like Edison inventing a light bulb or something like that, something that the world had never seen before? Is that, needless to say, we would say, well, that's creation. He created something that wasn't ever.
But you see, that is a process of becoming more complete and moving out of a state of less completeness. The invention of the light bulb brought light where it hadn't been before. It brought light where there was darkness, you might say.
Right.
But in the infinite presence of what God is being, there is no lack. And so the movement of creation is not a means of filling a void. It's not improvement. It's not forward movement. It's more like the hymn goes, from glory unto glory. And that's about the best I can put it into words at the moment.
So if there were no separation, there would be no need for light bulbs.
That is correct.
Okay.
In moments of illumination, and an experience that awaits you is for a darkened room to be illuminated by the light of you. Literally, the body of light that you are. And the light that is the substance of everything in the room. You, right here in this, quote, incarnation, unquote, without having ascended. The energy that you see as the form of your body is pure light, even though you can't see it at the moment. I can see it. This room is illuminated far more brightly than the lights display at the moment. Just from the light of you. Right now, it's shining. It isn't out. You haven't snuffed it, even though you're not seeing it. That's the more of you that's right here now to be experienced, if you'll be curious. It's happening right now. But you all have a nice little mutually agreed definition of yourselves. That is, that you're just, you're just human beings doing the best you can, struggling along and trying to refine your souls and spiritualize yourselves. And you're managing to be pretty far out. I mean, you're talking with Jesus. And this is excellent because to whatever degree you let yourself be far out and yet still remain grounded, you make it possible to let go even more and have experiences of light illumination. Man, when you pray, when you ask the Father to show you something, ask Him to show you a lot. Don't ask for just a little bit. Ask Him to reveal the maximum that you can bear. Ask Him to reveal the last thing in the world you would expect to experience. Okay. Microphone.
The invention of the light bulb or sailing ships or coats, aren't those all gifts from awakened beings through our consciousness? Aren't those expressions of love?
They are fuller experiences of your wholeness, fuller experiences of your birthright of freedom, fuller experiences of your right to comfort. They're not so much gifts as they are the little bit more of good that you were willing to be undefended against. A little bit more right to dignity and comfort than you had mutually agreed upon to before.
They're coming from outside of the agreed definitions, though. They're coming from
Of
our
course.
wholeness. They're coming from...
They are coming from the Father's good pleasure to give you all of what He is. And they come through the sieve of your current mutually agreed upon definitions. It's like you're in a dark room and there's a door in the room, and outside the room is the world and the sunlight. But the door fits the jamb perfectly, and there's no light bulb in the room. And so the room is totally dark. And then there's an earth tremor, and the room shifts, and this little crack of light across the bottom of the door comes through. And you get down and you look at it and you stand in awe of it. Wow, this must be a gift from beyond. I've never seen anything like it before. It's an incredible experience. But it's just a little bit of the totality of the world and all of the light that extends infinitely that's outside the door. No one said, let's give them a little bit of light. The light was being gifted in its entirety all along, you see. So it's always just as much of your good as you're willing to let in. And so coats and sailing ships and light bulbs seemed to develop so that lighter coats kept you as warm as the heavy ones, and better means of stitching them together made them last longer, and so on.